Your horse just pressed their forehead against your chest and stayed there. They're not asking for anything. They're not pushing toward food or nudging toward the gate. They are simply there, heavy and still, with the full weight of their head resting against you like they have nowhere else they would rather be. Most people hold their breath in that moment. Something about it feels significant in a way they can't quite name, and then they laugh it off, give a scratch behind the ears, and tell someone later, "My horse did the sweetest thing today." But they never find out what actually happened, because what your horse just did is not a gesture. It is not a quirk or a habit or a personality trait. It is one of the most neurologically complex expressions of trust that exists between a prey animal and a human being. And the science behind it reaches into evolutionary biology, into the chemistry of bonding, into the deepest architecture of how a horse's brain decides who is safe and who is not. Stay with me, because at the end of this video, I'm going to show you one specific thing to watch for in the seconds before your horse rests their head on you. Something that happens in their body before they ever make contact. Something that tells you more about what they're about to offer you than the gesture itself. Most owners never see it because they're watching the wrong thing. You have to start with what a horse's head actually represents. Not symbolically, physically. A horse's head weighs between 10 and 12% of their total body weight. For an average 1,100-pound horse, that is somewhere between 110 and 130 pounds of bone, muscle, and the most neurologically dense tissue in their body. The head houses their primary sensory systems, the eyes that cover nearly 350 degrees of vision, the nostrils processing 10 times the olfactory data a human nose can handle, the ears that rotate independently to track sound from every direction simultaneously. For a prey animal, the head is not just anatomy, it is the entire threat detection system. It is the thing that keeps them alive. And your horse just lowered it onto you. Researchers at the Institut National de la Recherche Agronomique in France studied head position in horses as a behavioral indicator of arousal and stress state across multiple social contexts. What they found was consistent and striking. Head height in horses directly correlates with sympathetic nervous system activation, the fight-or-flight state. When a horse is alert, threatened, or uncertain, the head comes up. When a horse is calm, regulated, and safe, the head comes down. Translate that. The lower your horse's head, the quieter their threat detection system. And the moment they rest that head on you, transferring its full weight into your body, they have done something that has no mechanical explanation. They have physically handed you the thing that keeps them alive and decided, in that moment, that they don't need to hold it themselves. You've felt this. You just didn't have a name for it. There is also something that happens in your horse's breathing in the moments after they make contact, something most owners never notice because they're focused on the horse's eyes or the ears. I'll come back to that. It's the most important part of this video. Now let's talk about what's happening chemically, because this isn't only about behavior. When a horse makes voluntary physical contact with a trusted human, not contact that was asked for, not contact that was led into with pressure, but contact that the horse chose and initiated, the neurochemical response is measurable and significant. A 2021 study in Frontiers in Ecology and Evolution measured oxytocin levels in horses across a range of interaction types with their bonded handlers. Oxytocin, the same bonding hormone that floods a mother's brain when she holds her newborn for the first time, rose measurably in horses during voluntary contact with familiar humans. Not during training, not during work, during chosen proximity and touch. Think about what that means for your horse in that moment. Their brain is not passively tolerating the contact. It is actively producing the neurochemical architecture of attachment. And here is what the research consistently shows about the direction of that response. It runs both ways. Studies on human-animal bonding have found that oxytocin rises in human handlers during positive physical contact with bonded horses as well, which means that feeling you get, that specific, quieting warmth when your horse rests their weight against you, is not sentiment. It is not you reading too much into a moment. That is your nervous system and your horse's nervous system producing the same bonding chemistry in each other at the same time. Two species, one molecule, running in both directions simultaneously. You've felt this. You just didn't have a name for it until now. Here is what most people don't think about when this happens: what it required of your horse to do it. A horse's default neurological state is not trust, it is vigilance. Their threat detection system does not rest. It does not take breaks. It is running constantly, scanning constantly, evaluating constantly, because for 50 million years of equine evolution, the cost of a single missed threat was death. Voluntary physical contact, especially contact that involves lowering the head, which, as we've established, is the command center of the threat detection system, requires the brain to do something that goes against everything that system was designed to do. It requires active suppression of the circuitry that says, stay ready. It requires the brain to have accumulated enough evidence through enough repeated experience to override the default. That evidence is you. Every time you approached slowly, every time you waited instead of pushed, every time you read the moment correctly and stepped back before the horse needed to, every quiet morning, every unhurried session, every time you left them feeling safer than when you arrived. All of it, every repetition, was building a neurological file that the horse's brain has been updating quietly the entire time you've known each other. Dr. Andrew McLean, whose foundational research on equine learning and cognitive processing has shaped modern horsemanship science, describes this accumulation as the mechanism underlying what riders experience as a horse that has genuinely softened. Not a horse that has been trained into compliance. A horse whose brain has reclassified a human from potential threat to trusted companion. That reclassification cannot be bought. It cannot be rushed. It is built moment by moment across the entire history of the relationship. When your horse rests their head on you, they are not doing something spontaneous. They are doing something that took years to become possible. Think about what that means for every ordinary moment you've ever spent with your horse that didn't feel like it counted. It all counted. Before we get to the reveal, there is a version of this behavior that means something different, where the head resting changes in quality or starts to appear in contexts where it didn't before. That version is not about trust. That's coming next. Horses in pain communicate differently than we expect them to. Not loudly, not dramatically, not in ways that are easy to read. A 2016 study led by researchers at the Royal Veterinary College developed what is now widely used as the equine pain face, a validated assessment tool that documents the subtle facial and postural changes horses produce when experiencing chronic discomfort. The findings were significant not for what horses do when they're in pain, but for what they stop doing. Horses in chronic pain show measurable reductions in voluntary social contact with their handlers. They approach less, they initiate less, they pull back from the kinds of chosen, unhurried contact that characterize a well-bonded pair. But there is a specific pattern that veterinary behaviorists have noted, which is almost universally misread by owners. A horse in uncontrolled pain, particularly pain localized in the neck, poll, or back, will sometimes seek head contact in ways that are different in quality from genuine trust-based resting. The contact is heavier, more pressured, accompanied by tension in the top line rather than release. The horse is not expressing calm. They are seeking counter-pressure against discomfort. The difference matters, and it is visible if you know what to look for. Now, the moment I promised you at the beginning, the thing that happens before your horse ever makes contact. The thing most owners never see because they're watching the head and missing what the body is doing first. Here is what to watch for. In the seconds before a deeply bonded horse initiates head contact, there is a specific postural sequence that begins from the hindquarters forward. It is not dramatic. It is easy to miss entirely if you are not looking for it. Genuine, trust-based head resting comes with a body that is simultaneously releasing. The top line softens, the hindquarters settle, the breathing slows. The horse is not just placing their head, they are letting go everywhere at once. Pain-driven head contact looks like weight without release. The head is heavy, but the rest of the body stays braced. The muscles along the neck and shoulder remain elevated. The breathing does not change. If your horse has recently developed a new habit of resting their head on you, especially if it appears during or after work rather than in the quiet moments, have them assessed. It is far more likely to be trust than pain. But the distinction is worth knowing because the horses who are hurting are the ones who need you to catch it. The horse's weight shifts very slightly back. Not a step back, a settling. Like something releasing in the hind end first, a micro drop in the pelvis that looks almost like a horse about to rest a hind leg. At the same time, the muscles along the top line, the long muscles running from the hindquarters up through the back and into the base of the neck, visibly soften. Not all at once, back to front, like a slow exhale moving up the spine. Then the neck begins to lower. Not the head yet, the neck, dropping from the base, bringing the whole top line with it, before the horse ever makes contact with you. Equine physiologists have documented this back-to-front postural release as a signature of parasympathetic nervous system activation, the biological state that is the direct opposite of fight or flight. The body is not just lowering, it is systematically standing down. Every system that would be activated for flight is quietly switching off, working from the hindquarters forward before the horse has even touched you. What this means is that by the time your horse rests their head on your chest, the decision was already made in the hind end. The trust traveled the length of their entire body before it reached you. Most owners watch the head arrive and think, "My horse loves me." What they are actually watching is the end of a neurological process that began at the back of the horse and moved forward through every muscle and system until it arrived, quiet and heavy and certain, in your hands. Watch for the weight shift in the hindquarters. Watch for the top line softening back to front. Watch for the neck dropping before the head. That sequence, happening before any contact, is your horse deciding. The head on your chest is just the moment they tell you. So the next time your horse lowers their head and rests it against you, remember what it took to get there. A nervous system built for 50 million years to stay ready is standing down. A threat detection system that never fully sleeps has decided, because of you specifically, that it can rest. The most neurologically valuable thing in your horse's body, the command center of everything that keeps them alive, is in your hands. Not because you asked for it, because they chose it. Because somewhere in all the ordinary time between you, the unhurried mornings, the quiet approaches, the moments that didn't feel like they counted, you built something in their nervous system that no training program produces and no amount of time alone creates. You became safe, and safety, for a prey animal whose brain was built to never stop scanning, is the rarest thing one living creature can become for another. That weight against your chest is not your horse being sweet. That is 50 million years of survival instinct going quiet. Because you're here. Drop a comment and tell me, has your horse ever rested their head on you? Tell me about the first time it happened. And if you want to understand what's happening when your horse sighs during grooming, that long, slow breath that seems to come from somewhere deep, that's the next video. And the physiological mechanism behind it is even more extraordinary than you'd expect.